Hi, and welcome to the Resources Roadhouse Lockdown Lowdown series. And today I'm speaking with Rob Longley, who's the Managing Director of Ardiden Limited. Ardiden Limited are based out in Canada, in Ontario, where they're concentrating on their Pickle Lake gold project, and in particular a deposit called Kasagiminnis. And I think I've just said that incorrectly, Rob, but anyway, I'm sure you'll correct me.
I can make it easier for you, Wally. And thanks for we just call it Cas. It's easier to talk about Cas. The actual First Nation word is Kasagiminnis, but we just refer to it as Cas, and they don't mind. So Cas is easy.
Right, the Cas gold deposit, and as I was sort of saying, it's only that's a very small part of the large land holding you've got, but you've already managed to put a JORC resource on there. So fill us in what's going on at Cas to start with, and we'll go on with what's going on.
Yeah, sure. Well, and thanks for your introduction and your time, and welcome to all your viewers that are hopefully watching in, wanting to know what we've been up to and what we plan to do. We're really focusing on the Pickle Lake Gold Project in Ontario, northwestern Ontario in Canada. And you're right, Kasagiminnis is our sort of flagship project in amongst 120 kilometre strike length. So your size estimation of your little fish there is about right. It's a tiny blob in a bigger picture, but you have to have a systematic approach to a portfolio this big and drill it at the right time and with the right knowledge. So we've been doing a lot of work on our whole land holding, working out the priorities and where we bring the best value to the shareholders. So there's historical resources at Cas as well as our JORC, and we've been looking at the best way to report the potential of Kasagiminnis. And really to put a ring around it in terms of an exploration target is probably the best way, because once you state the JORC 2012 JORC resource on a property that has a historical resource, that really supersedes that historical estimate. So there's a historical estimate at Cas of 400,000 ounces, which we're really confident is there, but it doesn't have enough modern drilling and QA/QC to convert that. That's exactly why we're going drilling again, to extend the strike. We've done a lot of work with geophysics to test where they probably missed it before and some other extensions. So we're really excited about Cas itself, but it's that whole belt there, over 120 Ks, which is the really big picture, which is of interest long-term to the investors and other people in the area. So I know we're being watched, and it's really exciting to be part of a sort of a growing project in this region, which will be really significant.
Yeah, and like you're just concentrating on Cas at the moment because and as we alluded to, it is a small part of a large land holding, but it's already indicated that it's got a fair bit of potential. You've only drilled down, or your current resource is only, say, not very deep compared to the depth potential that the actual deposit has.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Wally. As a junior, you can't afford to drill $1 million holes. So we're drilling what we can and just testing it systematically. You got to have a systematic approach to these things. We'll put down some deeper holes to test what it's like at depth. So the JORC resource itself is down to 280. It's never been tested below 300. So some of our holes will test it down to 500 metres this season. But in the area, all the gold mines around us, and we're in the shadow of 4 other headframes mines in the area, went down 500, 750, 1.1 kilometres and 1.2 kilometres. So they're deep mineralised systems, and that's the really exciting part. It's really hard to test that at the moment with drills. There's probably some better ways once we understand the geology and the mineralisation to test that, using either seismic or high size or some other techniques which are a bit smarter, better bang for buck. But our priority is to grow that JORC resource from 110 upwards and get more excitement into the area, understand the geology better and build our JORC resource base.
Right, and as you were just alluding to there, you're in a gold neighbourhood. You've got some fairly substantial neighbours dotted around the landscape there. Was that what sort of drew you over there in the first place, to have a look at Pickle Lake?
Well, Arden, before my time here, had already started some earnings or some option agreements on some small properties in Pickle Lake as early as 2017. But at that time, they were focusing on their lithium assets. When I started just over a year ago, obviously the market had changed and we pivoted across to gold. Saw a lot of opportunities there that hadn't been staked, as they call it, or pegged to claims. So the most important thing is to build something that has value. Nobody wants postage stamp bits of gold here and there. So we had to build up a continuous package. We did that reasonably cheaply, as you can do under their system over there, to give ourselves the real million ounce potential, multi-million ounces. So our exploration target at Cass, which is your little fish size deposit, it really has the potential to be 0.5 to 1.2 million ounces, only down to 500 metres. That's what myself and Dan Grabiak, our exploration manager, who's in Thunder Bay, he lives there, we're really comfortable putting that out at that sort of grain range of just under 4 grams, which would be economic as an underground mine of size, up to 6.6 grams, which is a gold mine just up the road from us. It produced 600,000 ounces at 6 grams. So that grade range, that continuity, we're really comfortable with in terms of me signing off as a CP, as a geologist, saying that's in the ground there. We've just got to go and prove it, get support to drill it at depth, and then go and test the other areas. We've got a pipeline of projects that will be in a subsequent announcement about what we plan to do at our other prospects. But Kasagiminnis, Cass, as you call it, is where we have that agreement with our First Nations to go to work. So in Canada, you have to operate as you do here, with your neighbours, with respect, with integrity, and go about it the right way. So we're doing that systematically. And
another important aspect of the whole Cass deal is the fact that you own it. It's 100% owned by Ardiden. That's quite unique for the area.
Well, it's unique in modern days in that the other juniors that have come into the area have to do an earning period, so they're under extreme pressure to meet spend requirements, in their periods. And we wish every explorer in the region good luck. I'm a geologist. I love to see success, but we don't have that pressure to spend X amount of dollars by X date at Cass. We completely own it. So there's no scrip payments, there's no cash payments. Every dollar that the shareholders have provided to the company, we plan to put into the ground wisely. So that's a bit of a distinct difference. And then you go about the broader region area, Evolution over at Red Lake is a massive Australian producer nearby. They obviously now own all that at a huge investment over there. So the areas around us are really interesting. You've got producing mines to our west and to our north with Musselwhite. And now suddenly people have realised the potential of Pickle Lake is really there if you can get the right size. It's Newmont, Goldcorp, Barrick all still have little land holdings in our region. So they understand that they need juniors. Your big companies still need juniors to go and do the hard work, the de-risking. We'd love to drive it right through to production and be standing there with gold bars and making announcements in the years to come. And that's our focus, is to get towards multi-million ounce production targets, big scale. But along the way, people will be watching us and seeing what we can do. That's what juniors do.
Yeah, well, speaking of announcements to come, we won't get too far ahead of ourselves, but in the near future, we can anticipate some drilling news coming out of the project.
Yep. We hope to be drilling in July, August, September is the sort of period that is conducive to drilling at Cass in particular. We've got everything lined up to commence that. We've got still some boxes to tick there. And of course, COVID is a significant factor in Canada. We're very fortunate here in Perth in particular, but in Australia generally. Canada still has a significant problem. Ontario in particular, I think the latest stats I looked at, there's about, there was 2,000 deaths in Ontario. So it's a different mentality and restrictions and care factor that goes on, especially close to the US there. So the remote communities, just as our remote communities in the Kimberley and the Northwest, are very sensitive to people coming into their region that don't need to be there and activities that shouldn't happen. So we'll work with our stakeholders and with Dan on the ground there, getting feedback on when the right time is to go in there. But we've got most things lined up, ready to go drilling. So we're pretty happy about that.
Yeah, well, you can only do what you can do when you can do it. So there's no, as you say, you can't push these things. So, well, that means we'll look forward to when you can commence, and once you're started, you're out there drilling, we'll look forward to getting some results from there. But in the meantime, we'll keep an eye on things at Ardiden, and we'll make sure that we keep on bringing news to our readers and our viewers here at the Resources Roadhouse. But until then, Rob Longley, thanks very much for joining us here at the Resources Roadhouse.
Good on you, Wally. Thanks, mate.